to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my special returning guest today is Sir Blake Sinclair. Sir Blake is an author. He's written a couple of books in particular. One is getting a lot of press and a lot of discussions because it's so timely, and that's the one about Roswell and the intergalactic mission. But he has another book out named Beyond Imagination, A Path to God and the Divine Realm, which I want to ask him about today. Sir Blake is also a mystic, a spiritual teacher, and is many things. So I'm so happy to have you back. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be back.
First of all, you have ongoing research about the Roswell incident, about your father's participation in going in and looking at the beings and the little spaceship. Have you uncovered any new information about anything like that?
Yeah, since I published the book last year in July, I continue to do research and I work with different experts like psychometry experts, advanced control remote viewers who were trained by Lynn Buchanan and Laurie Williams. So these are like top remote viewers. This ongoing research, and I find that there's more information out there. Some things I'm shocked with, and some things I never even heard about. So just in case your viewers are watching this for the first time, just kind of a quick rehash. My father was involved in the Roswell incident. He was stationed at White Sands Missile Range, which was considered the Area 51 of the 1940s. And the people who were there were the military, army, and naval officers, including the people from Project Paperclip. They were brought over from Germany after the war, top rocket scientists and many different scientists, including the Wernher von Braun. And so when the crash happened, it was near the White Sands Missile Range. The team there went over to investigate, including my father. He was involved in photography, filming, and photographing things. So he was around the craft, and he went into the craft and around the ETs. And I think last time I mentioned how the craft has some kind of organic property. I think the von Braun said it was kind of biological. I listened to different podcasts from different experts, especially Danny Sheehan, and he talked about how these crafts has something where they integrate like brain tissues with the fiber optics, allowing the occupants, the ETs, to navigate the craft. So that kind of ties into the Roswell story from my father's perspective, that it had this kind of organic property to it. It seemed like it was conscious. And so the men at the army, they were afraid because it had some kind of movement. And my dad at one point lost his balance and he touched the craft and it vibrated. It's kind of like interacting with him. But through that process, he interacted with the craft and the ETs, and I think one was dying. He had a download of information, seeing into the future. And somehow that opened up his psyche, his consciousness. He mentioned later on that he felt the presence of the ET, the survivor that was taken away. It was kind of like reaching out for help. It didn't want to be there. And it was calling for help and getting help to find the craft that it came from. And he felt bad about it. He wished he could help. But unfortunately, it was taken away from him before he got there, and a secret location. And so he wanted to help. He felt really sad about that. And at some point, he also felt the presence of other beings. That being that crashed was not the only one, but it was a different type. It was more of a humanoid beings. And he wasn't communicating with them, but I think they were kind of expanding their consciousness. And he was aware that they were somewhere, something that he never talked about. So that was kind of a fascinating information that I got through the advanced remote viewer. And it's interesting because through that process of investigation and research into the Roswell with different methods, we began to tap into the quantum field. And suddenly the one of the events began to kind of get into that field while we were together. And Carol, my friend, the advanced remote viewer, she began to feel it 1 or 2 days later. Being that event showed up at her home, in the physical level. The dogs began to bark, and she just saw this thing there, and it had a really bad smell. And I don't think she read my book, but from what I researched, it had a bad smell because somehow somebody fed it like some kind of plasma material, and it really was a bad odor. So she gave a nickname of Smelly Belly.
Now, you said Eamon? Is that what you were calling it?
Even extraterrestrial biological entity, even one, even one. So each of the ETs that were survivors, they give them the number. Well, they give different nicknames to him as well, to the ET as well. It had a sort of a feminine nature to it.
Interesting.
That was fascinating. Yeah. So even just talking about researching it, we got into that quantum realm and we got their attention.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them, I'm not sure which one, but came to her more than once. It was twice, and the dog all barked, and she was surprised. But when you get into the realm, you start opening bridges, the past, the present, future, and that was a fascinating find. So I think being around these beings and interacting with them, they definitely have that amazing ability to open up your consciousness, open up your third eye, and open up your awareness, giving my father the insight to see into the future, this relationship in ufology of what do you call that? The political side, the energetic side, the spiritual side, and seeing that one day that we're going to be able to reverse engineer this technology, which we have already. Something new that I learned, and I think later on I learned that there was another individual. They of course they captured the craft. They brought it someplace for research. They had a person that was a friend of mine and was brought over to the craft. There was a child genius. And when he went in there, he noticed that wherever he walked, there would be a light activation, just like they were kind of connecting with him. Again, reinforcing the idea of the organic conscious craft.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense if they had like brain tissues and neurons and dendrites communicating through the network of the fiber optic. In fact, that was from the Roswell crash. Colonel Corso had been given some material for the craft, and that was one of them. And so our modern day fiber optics came from that original Roswell craft, as well as a laser beam and other technologies.
I imagine that researching this makes you feel a lot closer to your father and that you understand him more now.
Yeah, that's right. As a child, I was so afraid of him. He was always yelling, had outbursts. He was a walking time bomb. And at the end of his life, we kind of came together and made peace with one another. But now, after the research, I kind of have more compassion towards him because realizing he has so much information that he had to store in his consciousness,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
couldn't tell anyone. And I think the last time you asked me that, did he have any special gifts? I remember that I think he had special gifts of clairvoyance because one night he was sleeping and all of a sudden he was awakened and he got the message that he had to visit his mother right in the middle of the night. So he went over and she was dying. No one told him. So he had that ability. He just didn't talk about it.
And what about yourself? Have you had those abilities since you were a child?
Yeah, I have different types of abilities, and I think it's partly because of my father's interaction and past life experiences. But as a child, I would see into the future of like car technology that they will one day have sensors preventing collisions. And that was 30 years, 40, 50 years ago, I had that vision. And now we have that technology in most cars. I do have visions of things in the future. And also when I was writing my book, so I think it was the third book, I saw that, that somehow they were going to create some kind of technology with technology and consciousness tied in together. I didn't know anything about the Roswell at the time. And now, when I researched about the Roswell, here it is. It's technology woven with organic material, with neurons and dendrites and things that are, I guess, from the ETs that they integrate that. I had that vision of that already. And also seeing the future where cars and public transportation would levitate. So I know that's going to happen.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about the extraterrestrials? Have they been contacting you?
Yes, they download. I mean, that's why I wrote my fourth book. I didn't want to write any more books at that point after 2020. But then about a year and a half ago, I started getting downloads again about writing a book, especially about the Roswell and about ufology. So they contact me when they want to share information.
Oh,
And anytime I go to a show or lecture, I always pray and meditate as using me as an instrument. Whatever you need to share, just share through me. And
mhm.
so it's not like I pick up a phone and I talk to them. No, some people are like that. That's what they say. But for me, I just open channel and it comes when it comes. They're definitely monitoring me. And I know that we're supposed to have some type of contact encounter. Once did a session with a friend of mine, Avery Torres. She's one of the top psychics in the world. And she told me that verified the contact encounters. But she said that in the future, I'm supposed to have another one. So I look forward to that.
Let's go back, way back to Mount Shasta when you had some very unexpected spiritual experiences. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I've been to Mount Shasta many times and had the calling to go there. And initially, I went there to do some healing training about the Reiki. And I
Mhm.
worked with a shaman, and he had like a Vogel crystal wand. And it's a design made by Marcel Vogel. He's kind of a mystic and a scientist.
Mhm.
And he got the information on how to create it through an ET, guiding him to create this Vogel wand, which is like an energy amplifier. And the one that he had was huge. It was probably like 10, 15 pounds. And he does kind of weather shamanism. And Joe Eagle's his name. And while he was working with me, activating all my chakras, I saw vividly all the beautiful colors at each chakra. So I think I mentioned before that when I looked in the sun after I was done with this, a beautiful violet ray just emanated from the central part of it towards me. In fact, I just published a song yesterday about the violet flame. It's a powerful healing energy. You know, the whole universe is made of this violet ray. When we evoke it, we can use it for protection, healing, and the transmutation of energies within our body. But going to Mount Shasta is such a mystical place. Some people call it the first chakra, root chakra of the planet. Some people say it's also the heart chakra. At some point, some Tibetan monks brought some artifacts over, and they put it there at Mount Shasta, activating it. And I think there's a stupa hidden in the side row, Tibetan stupa. And I remember going there, and I was given these relics from Master Relica, which I wrote about, I think, in my third book. She's a Buddhist master, and these are relics of Buddha, and they're like energetic crystals with the consciousness of Buddha. And so when I went to the Mount Shasta and I went to the stupa, I was praying and meditating. And when I came back home from that, these crystals had changed, they had multiplied. So that was a good sign. And it happens even for this Master Relica. She was given original like 7 to 9 of these relics from another Buddhist masters in Thailand, and they multiply it, and they continue to multiply on a regular basis. So
Wow.
she's giving it away, and they keep multiplying. She probably has over several thousand of them, different shapes, different colors. Some look like a heart, some have different colors. Some are big, like an inch, or even bigger than that. I've seen one as big as maybe 4 to 5 inches, really big sphere at this temple in San Francisco. But some people believe that when Atlantis went down and the Lemuria, a lot of the Lemurians went to Mount Shasta, and you know about that in Telos, the city below Mount Shasta. I was on a show on Coast to Coast once, and the one guy had called in. He's some kind of geologist or some kind of engineer, and they were talking amongst themselves. And one guy had, I guess, surveyed and checked out Mount Shasta, and he said that the most fascinating thing for him was that these huge domes. There's these domes inside of Mount Shasta, the mountain,
Mhm.
and so it makes you wonder about that. Who's there, and if there's being and there's some truth to it that maybe they live there. A lot of people go to Mount Shasta from all walks of life, and I see a lot of Buddhist masters. And when you're in town, it's just surrounded by masters in the town, and then you have the regular folks that've been there for a long time, and of course the Native American people have been there even longer. But it's a mystical mountain, and all sorts of things happen. You see a lot of UFOs there. Some people see Bigfoot there. Some people have mystical awakening. So that's what happened to me. And it started when I saw a picture of Peter at Mount Shasta, and he was a friend of Joe Eagle. And somehow that energy from Peter was so strong, I knew that I had to contact him. So I contacted him. He said, sure, come on over. So I went over there, and I drove about 4 hours or so to get there. And through the process, there was a time that, it's a long ride. You want to pull over and have a pit stop.
Yeah.
But something that I found out later on was the IM president said, no, don't do that. You can't even afford to pull over for 1 minute. I really have to go, though. I said, no, just keep going. So I kept on going. And I finally got to the restaurant. Just as I got there at the Lily's Cafe, and Peter's on his way out of the door. I said, okay, now I understand why. If I left for even 30 seconds, I would have missed him.
Mhm.
We wouldn't be talking right now. So I met with him. We had breakfast. We talked about a lot of stuff. Then he invited me over to his place, and we talked some more. And like 1 week prior to meeting with him, I started to get this fascination with turbans. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I wanted to get a turban. I went to eBay looking for turbans. My wife says, are you insane? Why all of a sudden you want to get a turban? You're not Sikh. And so I said, I don't know, but I just follow whatever I feel. And so I went to his place and looking around at pictures, I see he had a statue of Quan Yin. And then there was a picture of this guy, Indian guy with a turban. I said, who's that guy? He said, well, he's the Maha Chohan. He's like an ascendant master. So we kept on talking. And then all of a sudden he stopped and paused and said, he's waiting for you at Mount Shasta. I said, what? I don't even know who he is. And where do I go, you know? And he kept on talking. And he paused again. He said, yes, he's waiting for you. You have to go now. I said, oh my God. And so I said, okay, well, if the master said he wanted to meet me, I better go. So I bid farewell with Peter and I took off. And it was a kind of a cloudy day, a little dark. So I drove up the mountain and you still see snow on the side of the road. I got to I think it was before Panther Meadows, Bunny Flats, it's the name, Bunny Flats. I walked around. It was real dark and there were only a couple of people. There were people leaving because the weather looked like it was getting worse. And I looked at the ground and I saw this huge footprint. And I said, oh my God, is it a Bigfoot or is it a bear or something? I said, well, I trust the process. If I was meant to come, I know I would be protected. So I went around and just tuned in to where I should go. And at some point, at some spot, I just, and I sat down and I started meditating. Suddenly, there was a high frequency sound in my right ear, and I began to see the ascended beings, Saint Germain, Jesus, Quan Yin, and the Maha Chohan, and they were kind of like above me, in front of me, and they didn't say anything. They just looked at me, and then they did some kind of activation, acting my third eye, and somehow it lasted for a while. I was in that kind of trance. And then later on, when it was done, the frequency in my ear just went away.
Mhm.
And then I looked up and the sky was completely clear. I mean, it was completely dark before when I first got there. So it was a good omen that this was meant to happen. And at that point, I was kind of I was getting some connection with Quan Yin, but I had lost it. And so this experience kind of cemented that tie with her and me and the other masters. And ever since then, more and more masters have been coming into my life and
Mhm.
guiding me on what to do in life and how to achieve more mastery. It's the birth of my mysticism, you know, and later on I began to connect with Mother Mary and different masters as well. And the latest one is Sri Ananda Mayima, a saint and avatar that came into my life a few years ago. So it was a beautiful thing. It changed my life, changed my perspective and how I live my life. So that was the book of Beyond Imagination because it is beyond imagination. People say you can make this thing up, but I think sometimes I'm giving some physical evidence to show that no, it's not in your mind. Like one time I was there in the mountain with a master and we were meditating and she began to contact her Mother Mary. And I had already began to contact her. I began to see her and connect with her already. I said, no, I'm good because he's already giving me a direct communication. When we were leaving, suddenly I was told to stop. And I said, pull this thing off the ground. And it was a big rock embedded to the ground. And I did. And it was shaped like Mother Mary. And it was like a validation. The interesting thing is I took it back home and I showed it to my mother-in-law. And she's Catholic, not into these kind of new age things. And she looked at it and she said, Mother Mary. And that was a beautiful validation.
So when you pulled it out, the part that was under the ground looked like Mother Mary.
It's like Mother Mary standing there with her hands out like that, out to the side, like how she poses. It's sort of an energetic recognition to have my mother-in-law look at it and just automatically say that it was a beautiful validation.
And then after that, how did they contact you or let you know that they wanted you to write a book?
It's the same process, and it happens anytime. When the time is right, when they want me to write, information starts coming. I mean, I'm just sitting there relaxing, chilling myself, maybe by swimming pool or walking. All of a sudden, you get downloads of all these spiritual
Yeah.
teachings. This is not from me. This is from outside of me, coming into my subconsciousness or consciousness. If I don't do anything, no action, if I don't write it, record it, it repeats itself until I do it. And when I do it, okay, then it goes to the next thing. So that's how it works for all the books. And otherwise, it's just silent. Otherwise, they communicate with me during meditation on things to kind of fine tune my mastery and path in life.
Do they ever wake you up in the middle of the night or not let you go to sleep because you're getting downloads?
Sometimes I'll be sleeping and then they'll download and yeah, they wake me up and I have to get up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, and just write or record it and write it.
From this book, Beyond Imagination, is there a particular message from that book that needs to be known right now?
Well, I think the important thing is to realize that this physical body is just like a vessel, like a organic craft, like the ETs. It's more of a primitive craft. We travel, but it's not who we really are. It doesn't matter how you look outside, how young you are, how old you are. The soul is a soul, it's eternal being,
Hmm.
and realizing our true and divine nature, and that we're all connected together. And so we fight on Earth and see all the differences in the skin color and the demographics. We fight all the time, and we call names to each other. But we are all human beings, and we're all divine beings too, all unique expressions of God's consciousness. So if you look at it that way, you think differently about hurting somebody or hurting an animal, because divinity is everywhere. And so the realization of that is very important, that we're beyond the physical body, and we're energetic bodies. We have with chi energy flowing through us, we have prana energy flowing through us. We have what chakras, energetic vortexes.
Hmm.
And within that being, it's just energy and vibration and expressions of God consciousness. And to basically get disconnected from the matrix, get disconnected from social media. I mean, that's fine to do it, but some people, they spend the whole day on it. And the more we get disconnected from that world, and the internal world, the organic nature, the divine nature, the more we realize who we really are. Otherwise, I think people are just on autopilot. Whatever being sent through the music industry, through the entertainment industry, through this social media, all these things, the fear and all these things that they're trying to put through our subconsciousness, we could clear that out of the system. Then you feel more at peace. And when we tap into that through meditation, stilling our mind to get to that point of the oneness of God, the God consciousness, and in an absence of all these external stimuli to keep us alive. And part of it being alive is just being aware of the God presence within ourselves. And it's not just about doing our own thing too, about meditation, finding your own happiness. It's about waking up and getting to that point, but also expanding. And that's the important thing, is that we realize that full potential, unlimited potential that we have within ourselves, and how powerful we can be. But don't get into the world of the ego. I'm better than you. I'm smarter than you. I have more knowledge or more power than you. I can levitate. Those are not important. What's important is that you connect to the Christ consciousness, and you nurture yourself, love thy neighbor, love your family, love and compassion, and then produce action. Some people like to live in a cave somewhere, which is great, like a yogi. But now in this time period, this timeline, we need to get beyond that. You can do something like that, but we need to get to a point where we are also expanding our consciousness to the planet, to our home, to our neighborhood, to the universe. And so realize that this whole quantum entanglement, we're all connected to each other. So
Hmm.
if you realize that and allow your mind to be still, allow that cosmic energy to flow through you, to give birth to all these sevas, actions, and love and compassion and kindness. That's when you go to the highest level of spiritual consciousness. It's all about love, compassion. It's not about destroying people with anger. Like I know the Bible has this kind of almost like human-like God. He gets mad at you if you don't obey. And I struggle with that as a child. I said, how could God be that way? And then I realized that a lot of the materials were taken from the Sumerian tablets and from the ETs, the Anunnakis. And so their story was kind of woven into the Bible, and it's been edited so many times. But there's great truth in the Bible, not to put it down, but when you have so many people editing it, the Romans and so many people, the message gets distorted. There's certain distortions, that was started in the beginning of time with these Anunnaki and other negative ET factions. But we got to get beyond that. We got to get into the truth, get into that Zen state of consciousness, purify yourself, from all these media things, and learn to just still the mind and realize that, we are a divine being. And as such, we have a certain mission. And as you still your mind and tune into that, the cosmic and I am presence, and let that guide you to what you need to do to discover further who you are, and what you need to do, who you need to meet, and so forth. I've always done that, and it always guided me to the places I need to go, and fulfilling my dharma. And even if I'm not aware of it, as long as you're still in mind regularly and listen to that cosmic heart, and follow the path, you will always be in the right path. But sometimes there's a shadow self too, that ego that kind of distorts us. So it takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you kind of are faithful to that divine presence within you. So I think that book talks about all these different principles to help you raise your frequency and consciousness to a higher level, to really embrace and know you are a divine being. We all are, including trees and the plants and so forth. We're all connected. So there's no need to put people down. And, people make mistakes. We need to learn to forgive. I know there was a guru guy, and he made a mistake, and some it was accident that happened. And everybody jumps online and starts to attack the person.
Oh,
Says, why do that? You're attacking the person. People are human beings, and they make mistakes. Yes, we're not happy what they do, but learn forgiveness, learn compassion, and kindness. And if we do that, then the world will be in a better place.
people are so quick to forget all the good that someone's
That's
done,
right.
and then they make a mistake, as bad as it may be, but they need to try and look at it in a objective, a balanced way, not jump on the bandwagon of putting someone down. That certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, that's right. So I think beyond imagination is really just to realize that there's this whole beautiful world out there, and it is beyond our imagination. But using our visualization, using our imagination can create reality. I think that God dreamt of this world and the reality came forth. So we can also do the same thing to dream and visualize, imagine the reality that you want. And
Mhm.
if, the universe mirrors it and reflects it back to you.
Boy, that was a wonderful, positive message. And that's exactly what we need to hear. And so many people are getting the same download right now about expand your awareness, expand your consciousness beyond this current third density that we're in, because we are so much more when you tap in. I love that message. That was great. And I kept hearing Quan Yin in my head. Is she in contact with you right now?
She's always with me, and she's one of my main ascended being that works with me throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think I wrote a song about her, one of her incarnations, 1 or 2 weeks ago, giving thanks to one of her embodiments. And I've been fortunate to meet different embodiments of her
Mm-hmm.
through the voice and through just working with me in the inner realm. And people like Amma, the hugging saint, are kind of expressions of the quantum energy.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful, beautiful soul or
Yeah.
spirit or advanced master. Definitely, she reminds me to always have compassion towards people, forgiveness, and to love myself and to love others. Just feeling her presence is so touching.
It is. As you were speaking, I was really just feeling it. Must have been feeling her and kept hearing Kuan Yin. So, to change directions, would you like to talk about your experience out in the desert at Integratron? I lived up in that area for about 18 years, and it's quite special.
It is special, a beautiful place, and for some reason, I went there. I think 1 or 2 years ago. I don't know why I was just guided to go there, and it's like kind of out in nowhere in Landers
Right.
out there, and there was a gal there, and she's standing there, and she said, "Are you the owner of this place?" I said, "No, no, I'm just visiting." Her name is Michelle, and we just started talking, and then somehow she was doing some spiritual work, and she asked me to join her. She said, "This is a pivotal time. It's kind of like a perfect timing that you're here. The planet energy is kind of moving." And so we kind of prayed towards this area to empower humanity. And then, since then we've become friends, but I didn't really know too much about that place, so I knew I had to go there. Recently, I went there this year. It was a wedding of my nephew, and I said I have to go there. So I booked it in advance because you have to book in advance to go there. They have singing bowls, healing sessions there. But it was built by George Van Tassel, and he had lived in the area in, I think, early 50s or 40s even. He worked for Lockheed. He was a kind of a pilot for Howard Hughes, a billionaire. And if you go from there, there's like a little drive, about 30-minute drive on a side road. you get to this thing called the Big Rock, or
Giant rock.
Giant Rock. Yeah, excuse me. And it's like, I don't know how many, so many 80 to 300 billion years old or million years old. And it was a split. And I guess there was some type of ceremony there. And people had danced the whole night before, asking for some kind of sign that there was a hope for humanity. And I guess the next day it cracked, split in half. And the sign was, yes, there's hope for humanity. Back then, I believe that Van Tasso had lived under the boulder. He has built some kind of living space there. And I think there was somebody there before him, but he began to meditate. And that's at that point when he began to contact the ETs, Venusian. And then I think they took him out in the space. And he also contacted Ashtar Command. And they had told him basically to build that Integratron. So that's where that all started, from the ETs contacted him in that area of the giant rock. A lot of people were there for different convention, UFO convention. I think they had a little cafe there once. Howard, he would fly in there sometimes. But it was like the original Contact in the Desert kind of event place back in the day. So that was kind of neat. So I went there, experienced this Native American sacred grounds. And so I blessed it because I felt the energy had shifted due to the different types of people that were there and putting graffitis and kind of abusing the place. And so I think there are efforts to try to clean up the place a little bit. But definitely a sacred energy place that a lot of shamans go to rejuvenate their energy. So I went there for that, and to also to purify that area, to recharge that area of the sacredness. But going back to the Integratron, it's such a beautiful place and made completely of wood. And I think there's like one bolt or something, but it's all wood, and it's built over a vortex in some kind of aqueduct with water coming from Mount Shasta. So it's a very sacred place, and that part of it, I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that history that Van Tassel was there before. And at the central point of that upstairs, this Integratron, when you stand at the central point, if you say something, the sound frequency just goes through your whole body, and nobody else can hear it but you. So that was kind of a beautiful experience, and then having a sound bowl healing there was the best. So I definitely could go back there. But it was created originally to be like a time machine and kind of a thing to rejuvenate the body and the mind and soul.
He got the plans, the schematics from extraterrestrials, and the first of the bottom floor was supposed to be the healing place, and that was
Yeah.
never finished. But the upper part that you're talking about is perfectly balanced for sound. And it is
Mhm.
an amazing place to be. When I was there, we were just doing meditations, and everyone would put their head around the central opening there.
Yeah, definitely a powerful place. I wish that it could be open to the public more, and not just the sound bowl, like the things you do, like the meditation. I think that's nice to have more events there.
One other experience that you had touched on before about the plant medicine. Would you like to talk about your DMT experience and what that was like?
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience. Kind of nervous about doing it, but
Mhm.
something said, do it. So I went ahead and did it. Yeah, Daystar and Blue, the beautiful soul, such an Asian soul. And I just felt so connected with them. So I did it, and it was a unique experience. I started to know when the DMT started kicking in, geometric kind of things. I looked up and I could see this kind of a mantis being.
Oh,
Look, and I didn't realize that other people have visits from the mantis beings in this realm as well.
right.
So I thought, wow, that's fascinating. And so you see different things, different realities, and colors are more vivid. It's like the time I did the Reiki healing at the mountain, the Mount Shasta, when Joe Eagle put the different energy points with his Vogel crystal wand. The color is so vivid, so beautiful, so clear. So when you get into a realm, everything is much more enhanced. It's kind of like HD TV, but even more so. It was beautiful. So it was a kind of experience and another reality. And so then when I came back, it was interesting because I looked up at Daystar and I said, "You're a Lyran." And just like I just knew it. And then I looked at Blue. I said, "You're a priestess. Well, you have some gray genetics as well." It was weird. I saw that. So it was beautiful awakening into this reality that exists. And I remember going to a group one time, and they were doing studies on DMT, and they would get volunteers, and they would do DMT through IV. They were researching it. They were getting different people and seeing, trying to map out their experiences. So they would go into this realm or out of the matrix, and they would start writing what they saw. And they found out these different people, they would see the same thing in that realm. So,
Oh,
which means validation of the reality of this beyond the matrix realm. It's a beautiful tool. And the second time I went there, it was more for healing because they're very intuitive, and they gave me what I needed to heal. And it was such a beautiful, euphoric, and blissful experience. And by these loving souls, they're not just there to do a business, but they really care about people at a deep level. And I think that they see who I really am and what I need, and that they would give it to me, with unconditional love and support. So if you're looking for something, not necessarily for some people do it for fun, and you can, but I think it's a very sacred tool for opening the door to the other realm, see what you need to see, and you get what you need to get. And it's something that is a process, as you evolve further, you probably want to do it more and deeper to explore further, but I highly recommend it. It was a positive experience. I was kind of afraid though in the beginning, and it's like you're dying out of this reality. It's almost like dying actually. You die from this reality and you wake up into this other reality.
uh-huh.
And so it's kind of like a sneak preview to the afterlife. And the good thing is that it doesn't last in the system that long. If you do ayahuasca, you're knocked out, and it can be kind of dangerous depending on who you're with. And depending on what's going on in the dynamics of the internal subconsciousness and all those things in your life, it can be a beautiful thing or it can be a nightmare. That's why at least you're around people who are monitoring you, working with you, and then they're activating me with different mantras, so they're working from the place of the heart to a level. So I enjoy that part of it, and I think everybody should have a chance to try it out. It's a short thing, I mean, and that's the beauty of it. You don't stay there that long like other things. So you go in there, you come back out. There was a lady who had MS, and she did it, and she found so much joy and peace after she did it. After that, you can drive half an hour. So like on the other things, you need someone to drive you. Even magic mushroom, afterwards, you gotta have to get someone to drive you. I've done that. You go through this Alice in Wonderland journey, and it's kind of beautiful because you see into the inner realm, but in a different way, or it's longer lasting. But this one is short lasting, and I think it just removes the veil for a while to let you see what's out there, and then you come back in this nurturing and loving environment. So I think that makes it special with they in blue, and they start in blue. They're beautiful people, and if I do it again, I would love to do it with them.
Oh, yeah. If I ever did it with anyone, I would definitely do it with them. I love them. They're a wonderful couple. They have a beautiful property up in Oregon, Southern Oregon, which is on my to-do list.
Me too.
I was wondering, have you ever done any shamanic journeys or meditative journeys to the Akashic records where you did past life reviews?
I've done past life reviews. Yeah, going back to Egypt, and I've done some myself where I exploring the different problems I had in life, the origins of them. First time I did the hypnosis journey, I went into, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last show about going to Egypt. Yeah, so I suddenly saw myself in Egypt, and I was some type of prince or something living out in the desert in this beautiful place. But I was not happy. I didn't like that life. And so I decided to give all that up and become a healer. So I began working at a healing or sleeping temple until the day I died. And I became a very old man. Yeah. And so, anyways, when I died, what I realized is that my soul was leaving my body. And I saw these two ETs that were receiving me. And that was kind of interesting. That was all I saw. Then flash forward 30 years later, then I met this guy. Yeah, he collected the stones from Mexico, Jalisco, Mexico. And they were like old, like maybe over 7,000 years old. There was one stone that had a picture of this being on the table. And it looks like the being was dying. And then these ETs were around the being to accept the soul. So that was really interesting. This year, I began to do a deeper dive into hypnosis to kind of explore what happened after that death. And I saw that I had been taken away by the ETs into another planetary system, not a planet, and then incarnated there. And it was a totally different system. I remember going in meditation, going to this other realm where it was like a dome-like building in the center of a forest, and these beings coexisted with nature and live according to the law of one and unity and consciousness. And it was like weird because as a child, I didn't have like one mother. It's like I was a child for everybody. Everybody treated this kid as part of the family. We were all connected. So it was a kid of the tribe, if you will. And I became a leader of this particular planet at that point. But I've done other times I would try to find the origins of my ego. I used to have such a big ego when I was younger. And I asked myself, I said, can you show me the origins of this ego? So then I go back in time and I was a samurai in Japan and I was a fierce samurai. And I didn't care about people. I did all sorts of things. And I felt like I was above the law, that like I was God. And at the end of life, I wasn't even afraid of death. I said, come and get me. Like, I'm ready. You don't scare me. And so the realization of that, and I learned that he hurt some innocent people. So I worked on healing, asked these people for forgiveness, and I forgave myself for what I did. So it was a healing journey. And so that released it. And so I was able to kind of integrate that part of that ego, my part of my life, in order to move forward in consciousness. So who I was before is different than who I am now through all this journey.
Mhm.
And it's like, not like one thing, it was one journey after another. But through meditation, I had journey, through hypnosis, there was a journey. And and even in dreams, they come to you and tell you messages. It's a galactic journey that I've been on for the past year. It's kind of like my final place to kind of bring all the things together, bringing spirituality, ufology, the paranormal. It all ties into why I'm here to bring that message of hope and love and unity based on all these things that I went through. You know, and it's hard to talk about something unless you experienced it. But
Mhm.
I experienced it. They guided me on what to do on each level to share with humanity how they can also do the same thing or avoid certain types of problems.
I think it's an important part of just expanding people's minds to give our stories about what we know about these galactic histories, past lives, and being in communication through our own higher consciousness with higher frequency dimensions. And so I'm very happy to hear you talk about what you've talked about today. It's all so positive, and I just thank you so much for everything you contribute to the
Oh, thank you so
collective
much.
consciousness. I really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you for this platform and doing what you do. And we're all on the same team to try to evolve consciousness and doing our part to fulfill our dharma in life. And I think that's the thing. We just have to wake up people from wherever they're at. It's never too late to start. Just start and start on the path of the self-discovery and realize that you're more beautiful than you're aware of, and that you can do so much more if you just allow all the limitations to fall away, that we're limitless, and that we're not just here on this lifetime. We've been going through different lives, and it's brought us here to this time and space to make a difference in our own way.
It's got definite payoffs with all the good health that comes along with it as we're
Mhm.
working with the higher frequencies and our own higher consciousness embodying our physical cells really helps with excellent health.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much. I appreciate your time,
Well,
and
you're welcome. Did we
hopefully
run out of time already? I thought we had more time. Time flies.
it really has. Thank you again, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.